Hi guys, it's Aegis here. So today I'm here with another D-standard deck profile, and this time I'll be covering a new Dark Stage right line, which is the Sacrifice class. So this is yet another new way of playing the Dark States, and this time it's very focused on using energy with energy blast and such. So energy management is very important in this deck, even though you do have a ways to earn a lot of them. But then if you don't take care of the energy well, you will still be like kind of not being able to do your things. So without further ado, let's look into the right line first. It's basically just the sacrifice glass right line. So this, when it goes to this, you can just start on the right face, you can just ride on it, which is great. And after that, you and your opponents will be able to draw a card during the turn. You cannot ride again. So this is a very gimmicky effect that you actually give your opponent a card. Because sometimes when I first look into this deck, when I first look into like the skill and like why are you letting your opponents to draw card, because that will just allows them to like give you more materials to actually rush you. That can happen, but it happens. But so far it isn't like that kind of scary to give your opponents an extra card. So yeah, so far it's okay. And then when you go into the grade 2, then the grade 1 skill goes on, and then when you go into grade 3, then you will Soul Blast 1 and get yourself a Sweet Bait, which is the order which we will be going to talk about in a bit. So you guarantee to have at least one of the order to use, which is very nice, unless all of them go to the damage and nothing you can do, but usually that is not happening. And when this unit appears in Riga Circle, if there is a Grand Dogma grade 3 face out on your damage zone, then you can actually add that card to your hand, then from your hand to put one card back to the damage. So if you by chance call her out, you can still kind of recycle your Grand Dogma if it went to the damage and never get healed. So it's a good backup plan if you actually can pull it off. And once you go into Sacrifice Glass, then here comes the actual real gameplay going on, because like with 012 we so far didn't see anything very fancy, and then when we get to the grade 3, it happens. At the beginning of the main phase, so after you ride it from your right deck, you go to the main phase, this effect will already be ready, and you get yourself, not the Vanguard, yet when your opponent's unit is retired from Riga Circle or Guardian Circle, you energy charge 1 until end of turn. And it's not like a once per turn action, that's one thing, and 2, it counts every single card. So if your opponent put 3 cards in your Guardian zone, or if you're popping 3 regards at the same time, you will get to do energy charge for 3 times. So energy charge 1, charge 1, charge 1 per card. So the more your opponents give you, the more energy that you will gain. But this skill will only be gained from the beginning of your main phase. So it's like if by whatever chance that you bypass the start of the main phase and then you go into Sacrifice Glass, you don't get that effect. So so far it's not happening, but who knows, like for future something could be happen, but yeah, just let it be for now. And then at the end of the battle, that unit attacks a Vanguard, you can energy blast 4, search your deck, hand or drop for up to 1 Grand Dogma, write it as stand, get 15k power, -2 drive at the end of turn, and you search your deck, shuffle your deck, and if you roll a card, your opponent may draw a card. So this turns into another card, and then the plus 15k allows you to bait a little bit more shield from your opponents, because you don't get to drive check, because it's -2 drive, and Grand Dogma so far doesn't have anything to gain drive. So when you go from Sacrifice Glass to Grand Dogma, it will only be a 28k swing unless you have a boost, or if you somehow have something to pump your Vanguard. So far I don't think so. Right, yeah. So the main idea for Sacrifice Class is to have his skill ready, and then you pop enough to get enough energy, swing with your Vanguard to your opponent's Vanguard, and then Energy Blast 4 turn into Grand Dogma to do another attack. So far, from the cards that we see, that's what happens. And then going to the main deck first, we of course have 3 more Person Ride if we need to, because the Person Ride will also carry over when you ride a Grand Dogma on top. Then that can turn the Grand Dogma to a 38k zero drive beater, which is still great. So instead of just purely relying on Grand Dogma, I think the Person Ride is also great. But if you really need a very fast game or something, sometimes you don't have a chance to use a Person Ride, then you might ditch it. But most of the time I will be using it for Person Ride for sure. And then our another spotlight is of course our Grand Dogma, which is another key card of the deck, of course. But this card is bound other than by the ability of a card with the same card name as this card. Put this card into your drop. So if somehow you need to bind this card with other card that is not a Grand Dogma, it will go into the drop zone. So you can't use ways to cheat binding her, basically. And then at the end of the battle, this unit attacks, choose one of your opponent's rear guard, retire it. That's it once per turn part, and it keeps going on. And if your bind zone has one or more cards with the same card name as this unit, you're going to pop another card. So after the battle, you're already popping one. If you already have another card in the bind zone after another Grand Dogma attack, then you can bind another one. So you can bind a total of 2. And alright, if your bind zone has 2 or more cards with the same card as this unit, so this time if you are having 2 when this attacks and battle ends, then stand this unit. So the more you stock up your Grand Dogma in your bind zone, the more you actually get to do stuff, right? And then at the end of the turn, if your bind zone has 1 or less cards with the same card as this unit, then choose a Sacrifice class from your soul, right on top as rested, and if you roll a card, bind this card. So after this one attacks, you search the Sacrifice class to write it rested, and then you bind this. That's how the way you stock your your Grand Dogma. And it's only when you have 1 or less. So the first time when you have 0, you stock to 1. The second time you stock because you have 1 or less, so you stock another one. And after the third one attack, this skill will not pop again. So she will not go to the bind zone because you have 1 or more, but you are not having 1 or less. Let's put it that way. So your Grand Dogma will stays as a Vanguard on top of your Sacrifice class. And normally from there you will just use your Grand Dogma to fight for the rest of the game, and she will restand because you already have 2 there, and because you are not summoning her using Sacrifice class skill, that means you will be able to do Chain Drive twice because you are not minusing any drive. But of course you don't get the plus 15k, so you are just a pure 13k Chain Drive for 2 times, basically. Yeah, so it takes quite a while to make that happen because it's your 3rd grade 3 turn, basically. Yeah, so it's not that easy. It takes really a lot of time, and the energy is here for you to actually survive. And you are kind of partly relying on Grand Dogma early game without drive to apply pressure to your opponent to let them give up a lot of things, so that when you actually stays as Grand Dogma, you will be able to fully utilize her effects while still being able to apply pressure to your opponent without too much of a big attacks. Okay, next, support cards. 4 of the Woozy. So this has 2 skills. front row regard circle when your grade 3 or higher Vanguard with sacrifice class in his card name attacks. Just one opponent regard and retire. So before your opponents get to intercept, you can actually pop them, and because you pop their regards, then you get to energy charge 1. So if you have 2, you can pop 2 and energy charge 2. That's how you kind of stock up your energy if you are using some of them. And if your Vanguard is the Grand Dogma with grade 3 or higher attacks, this unit will get plus 10k until end of turn. And because the skill didn't say anywhere is it once per turn, and each of them didn't like collide with each other, so you can actually go into sacrifice class, use this, go into this, use this. Basically 2 skills will pop once per turn, unless you have a chance to like make more to happen. But once you stays on Grand Dogma, the popping skill will basically not be active unless you write another sacrifice class, which again I don't think you will. But yeah, it is kind of possible. And then using Fort and Rifle Test, because you get to call something great from the soul if you need to. For example, this if you really need to, and then you get a soul charge. It can also bring you something else, and we do have cards that are actually using soul, and it also can pop stuff if you want to, so it kind of help you speed up your energy charge because you don't always get your Musi. So if you need something to pop, to just grab that extra energy for you to just getting the 4 energy blast, then this could be the card. And this card is also helping you to speed up your energy charge, which is for Carla. So this, when placed on regard circle from hand, you get energy charge 1. So simple. And at the end of the battle, that this unit boosts if your energy blasts 3 or more at the same time. For the cost of your card ability this turn, retire this unit and draw a card. Because your sacrifice class will be so energy blasting 4, so it's just that easy. But make sure you use your sacrifice glass skill before you boost with her, else you won't be able to actually use that effects. And then for the Bifrost, it's just too good to just with one skill to look free, put one in soul, put one in hand, put one in drop. It also helps with the next card that we are going to talk about. But the other thing is to get the pieces into your hand while having a body on the board to just boost or even just some kind of early rush. And then we have for Madura. I'm not too sure how to pronounce that name. So it get a once per turn skill, so +1, discard a card from hand, choose a sweet bait from the drop zone, and it gets this card can be played from the drop, and when it would be put into the drop after play, put it to the bottom of the deck instead until end of turn. So the second part of the skill is kind of preventing you who just keep targeting the same sweet bait every single time. So it goes to the deck, so you need to find another one. But this allows you to just play it from drop, which is very important, and that gives us a chance to just not use a lot of them. And at the end of the turn, by energy blasting 5, you can draw a card, because you will be popping a lot of stuff, so usually that can happen, right? But because you're also using a lot of energy, so you might need the extra charging cards. And with this, it's soul charged, so it fits the soul blast requirement for this. And if by chance you have your sweet bait into your soul, you can just simply soul blast that to get prepared. And then for PGs, if you want to use a pistol, you can. Nothing too fancy about that, personal choice. And then going to the sweet bait, which is another key card of the idea of the deck. So you play this with counterblast 1, so do be careful about that with your Bifrost. Don't use that counterblast for sweet bait. You basically need to use it every single turn. and perform one of the following according to your Vanguard's card name. Your Vanguard is the sacrifice class. Then until end of turn, your opponent gets all their regards and cards in their drop, lose their continuous abilities and all of their auto abilities. Cannot gain and cannot move from regard circle to guardian circle, so they cannot intercept. They lose every skill except their active skill, which they cannot use during your turn because you are using it during your turn, and this skill is applying to them until end of turn. Right. And then you draw a card for every 3 of your and your opponent's regards in total. So if there is a total of 9 regards, counting both players' board, you get to draw 3. The maximum regards we have is 10. So as long as you can fill that up, then you will be fine, right? And because you also tells your opponents to choose 3 unit cards on the drop and call them to open regard circle, so they cannot call cards over. That's one thing. And second, they have to get 3 if there's 3 or more. The only chance that they can call 3 or less is when their drop zone has less than 3 units to call. Else they have to call 3 no matter what, and then you count how many regards on your side, your opponent's side in total, then you draw cards. So usually you will get to draw 2, usually, and make sure you set up your board, look at your opponent's drop, how many they can call, set up the total number, and then play this order. Now, what if you are Grand Dogma instead? Then if your Vanguard was not placed during the right phase this turn, activate Personal Right. So it's a backup Personal Right plan, and then choose any number of cards with different grades other than heal and over trigger from the drop, and return them to your deck and shuffle the deck, because you will be kind of drawing a lot, so it allows you to have a chance to kind of preventing yourself deck outing, which is great, and you get to return at least a trigger that is not heal and over trigger. So by having that actually makes you easier going to late game, right? And maximum you can return like 4 cards, and if you return another Grand Dogma, then that means you have another chance to draw them and actually use for Personal Right, which is also great. And then I'm using the Angel Ladder, even though we will be playing this for 99% of our turn, but sometimes it's just not worth to do it sometimes, and you kind of need that protection. For example, if you are facing a Shurenui deck, then you rather protect all your stuff for a turn and then use this on the next turn. Then Angel Ladder is something that is good to go for. But again, most times I will be going for Sweet Bait, but there are chances that we actually need to use the Angel Ladder. Then it's better to have it right there than not. Triggers. Now I'm using the Light OT as a test. I do see, for example, the Water OT. I think the Fire OT works as well. The Dark OT isn't working, if you ask me, because you will be using a Vanguard to attack first. So being able to call another unit won't help, because your front row regards will be standing most of the time. Especially when you have 2 Musi, you need your sacrifice glass to attack in order to gain your 10k, so you won't just swing for 10, right? So I won't go for the dark one, and Dark 6 one is okay, but I don't quite think it's fit. And when I see a lot of retiring that gains energy, then I see this Light OT being useful, because if your opponent trying to dodge you, they will be playing less regards on the board. That even though you will be using a Sweet Bait to call a lot of stuff back, but still you can still pop them and do the energy charge, right? And there are chances that you can actually save this and using Angel Ladder instead, and then when you pull the Light OT when there are so many empty boards, you get to draw a lot of cards, and then you get to pop your opponent's whole board, which is great because you have a lot of pops, but that doesn't mean you can actually pop every single thing, right? So the light OT there, I think is okay. Some people might say it's kind of like an overkill, but who knows? Especially like when your opponent is running out of PGs, they are using some real values to guard, and this will just boom, wipe them all off. So I think it's great. But if you want to use others, feel free to use them. And then crits. I'm running 7 crits, 4 draws and 4 heals. Because even though you draw a lot of cards, but I don't think front triggers is good enough to get all your pieces. So I'm using draw instead of fronts. And if you do have a 4th sewing crit, you can use that. But so far I only use the crits for guarding, so it doesn't really matter for me. But if you want a safety net, you can just use the sewing crit so that you get the extra sew for this. But other than that, I think you're fine. Yeah. So yeah, that's the deck list, which I think is very simple, which is great for people entering the game. What you need extra is 4 PGs, OT of your choice, triggers, these 2, and that's it. Everything else is within the set, so it's actually quite easy to build. But you do need to be very careful on using your sweep bait, because it's your opponent choosing 3 cards to call, and if you can't kind of wipe them all, then those units will be helpful to your opponents during the next turn, and you might get into trouble as well. So do be careful on that. And then it really takes time, because you do need to go through your Grand Dogma for so many times in order for her to stay and be popping 2 regards and then restand. So it's a good challenge for you to learn how to survive while having a lot of different skills: soul charging, energy charging, looking at top cards, superior ride. You have a lot of things. So this deck is very interesting compared to the Daifudo. I think it's more of a learning of guarding deck. This, you also need to learn how to be a little bit offensive, because your Grand Dogma is not going to do any draft check unless she stays on the field for a while. So yeah, you do need to learn a lot. But once you can get over it, I think that's really nice, because you do have a lot of board destruction to just kill a lot of regards. So and you kind of don't need to worry about the energy too much, as long as you keep the 4 for the superior ride and see if you can get the 5 to draw a separate card and then just go into the next turn. Because as long as you have Musi, your energy charge free with the generator, your sacrifice glass attack and pop 1, you already get 4. So it's quite easy to achieve, not too easy to misplay, but of course misplay always happens, but you just need to get well and you should be fine with this deck. Yeah, so that's it for this deck profile. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. If there are other cards that you're using, feel free to comment down below as well to let me know. Subscribe for more deck profile, deck fights, unboxing videos. And that's it for me, guys. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Signing off.